I'll start with a very brief prayer that I might speak today for my grandmothers. I'm the daughter of Gail, who was born of Evelyn, from Louise, from Bertha, from Margaret, from Marcella, from Anne. I reside and work on the ancestral, traditional, unceded lands of the Chepenefa and Kalapuya nations in what is now known as Corvallis, Oregon. I also acknowledge that we are currently on the traditional territory of many nations, including Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, who are now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I pay my humble respects to the elders past and present. I also bring in all of the non-human helping beings and humans who are with us in spirit so that this talk may help us all. Beginning a little more grounded context, my work in childbirth design began first as an early childhood educator, where I witnessed firsthand the influence of the built environment on emotions, behaviors, and self-regulation attunements of very young children. I studied midwifery for a year with a lay midwife named Joni Donning in Eugene, Oregon, although I chose not to pursue that vocation. My birthspace design work first began with the birth unit design study at UTS, where I was thrilled to be the project coordinator working with a team of Marilyn Furrer, Carolyn Homer, Nikki Leap, and many other UTS midwives, social scientists, and design team. While working on the birth unit design project in 2011, I recognized an opportunity to study the childbirth supporters' experience. Hence, I earned my PhD in health from UTS in 2015, and a smidge more context is I am a mother of a 16-year-old daughter, and I get to witness the lived experience of family members who are autistic and have sensory processing disorders, so that really makes for a rich quilt of my experience where I'm talking from today. This research program image I made many years ago, and it's amazing when I brought it up to refresh the slideshow that it's still very accurate and relevant. You'll see that I'm very curious about how designed environments, built environments, facilitate restoration, learning, and healing. I'm a big fan of curiosity and N of one. Let's just try and see what happens. We don't always have a way, and that's okay. So I studied my master's with preschool children in their classroom setting, and we looked at randomized houseplants on their attention. And I did that using video recording for the data collection, which just dovetailed beautifully in the birth unit design project. So after many years of working on this degree from both Sydney, where I helped collect the data, and I'll get into that, moving back to Corvallis, Oregon, and then finishing the degree remotely in different, not only time zones, but seasons. Turns out Sydney folks are on a long summer holiday when I'm ready to really buckle down and work hard. Anyway, I got it done in time, thanks to Marilyn mostly. And then shortly thereafter, Doreen and I had a conversation about what if, let's imagine, the GBE Deanne was born and the bed is in the middle of our acronym, which is not what we want. So just remember that if you get stuck on what the acronym is. After starting at the Design for Human Health program for a few months only, I got immediately involved in school settings and what quickly became something that we saw was already built on the foundations of many, many other scholars, and we termed it trauma-informed design. I'm not sure we are the only people that termed it that at the time, but this is how ideas generate. It populates around the planet in my mind. So let's move on to talk a bit more about the childbirth supporter study. And at the beginning of my thesis, I wrote this from Alain de Botton, Insofar as we appreciate order, it is when we perceive it as being accompanied by complexity, when we feel that a variety of elements has been brought to order, that windows, doors, and other details have been knitted into a scheme that manages to be at once regular and intricate. That is from his book, The Architecture of Happiness. So what did I do? Well, I conducted an exploratory video ethnographic single case study of childbirth supporters' experiences within an Australian hospital birth environment. Video field notes and video cued reflexive interviews with the birthing person, who happens to be a woman, her midwives, and 4 supporters were thematically analyzed using ethnographic, symbolic, interactionist perspectives to frame supporters' understandings. I'll show you what the broader birth unit design table shows. We had 6 different families that agreed to being videoed. If you're curious about how we received ethical approval for that, you can read about that in my paper. The purple column is the person that I was able to be in person for her birth and video her, which lasted 15 and a half hours of continuous videoing, which I had 3 hours of unedited video footage from that, which I then edited to an hour of footage and further anonymized certain parts of it that the family wished to have. We used ongoing consent for that whole process. So here is the back of the woman in labor, the one with the single strap on. She's crouching on the bed, and the 3 people facing her are her midwives. She had a shift change in the middle of her labor, and one of the midwives is a student midwife. So we lucked out on the numbers of people involved in the scenario. She was supported primarily by her mother, as in her culture, the men are not typically the supporters, it's the woman. So the mom is the one wearing that flowery shirt that has her back all the way to us. Before we get too much into the actual study, let's just make sure we all understand the importance of continuous supportive supporters. Canadian seminal birth researcher Ellen Hodnett described in 2013 supporters as untrained lay companions from a woman's social network, such as husbands, partners, and female relatives, usually with little experience or in providing labor, and are themselves in need of support when with a loved one during labor and birth. So some supporter activities that we might expect to see typically are providing comfort and touch, both physical, emotional, and cognitive, by holding hands, wiping with cloth, massage, providing beverage, ice chips, gentle encouragement, actively listen and responding to women's words and needs, perhaps suggesting different birth positions or movements, managing music, being present, etc. There are many things supporters can do. However, Johansson, Fenwick, and Premberg in 2015 helped us see that although many birth supporters are expected to be in the space, and it is the typical activity for supporters to be there, they are not represented in the built environment. They're not. In particular, fathers state that they feel unprepared for their labor support roles, which diminishes their experience and limits their contribution, even leaving some fathers vulnerable to postnatal depression, anxiety, or other post-traumatic experiences. So here's just an example of what kind of camera I was holding, and the process was very sensitive, as you can imagine, because the social relationship was more important than me, doing this data collection process. So I used an ongoing video reflexive process here as a rapid ethnography, and I looked towards Clifford Geertz in his 1988 book. So the idea is to have truly been there And I was an alongside-er because I'm a woman who had given birth in a hospital setting under complex situations, but I was not a family member or a staff or care provider. So this is really, it could be a very long discourse on this one slide. But to honor showing the family's story, I will keep moving and always open to collaboration, so come talk with me. So this woman's husband was up the hallway, and he was looking for places to rest and have something to do, and became quite distressed midway through because it was the nighttime and things slowed down. It was taking a long time, so he was looking to me for advice. Was everything going okay? What should I know? And there wasn't a place for him to land and to be waiting in a good way. So the woman on the yoga ball, again, that's the mom supporter. The woman off to the right is the birthing woman's sister. She had two sisters there, and there were many times when we could see there was a beanbag there covered in a sheet. There wasn't anything for them to do. They didn't quite know where to be. Were they in the way? You could sense that the mom and the supporting mom were in the hypnobirthing track. They would like to maintain that, let's not disturb things. And the sisters were doing their best to go with that, but you could see that they didn't quite understand. I have their own words coming up. There's the sister helping. The supporter mom is in a lot of crouching and bending positions. Now, when I was doing the analysis, which you'll see more examples of coming up, I did create these video montage stills to show what was happening over time. So these are just examples of sitting and squatting, leg up position. There's a whole nother series when she took something that was meant to be on the floor as a mat and instead put it on, it was leaning on the wall to be out of the way. And rather than put it on the floor to use it as it was intended, she used it as something to grab onto and hold and be pulling from above her heads. Here's some different visual images of sketching. The birthing woman is holding onto the sink. The person sketched to the left is the midwife, trying to get a little heart rate, maybe, something like that. And yes, again, the supporting mom is in a not super comfortable chair, and there was an ensuite bathroom in this setting. So the room after a full night of labor, you can see it's just moving through lots of the objects in the room are communicating themselves. They're telling a story of what they've been through, how much clutter is happening. To say it as it was in my publication, the results presented here are from an exploratory, short-term focused video ethnographic single case study of one family's experience. This case was selected from a group of 6 available within the larger birth unit design study. And for several reasons, the active mobile nature of the labor that demonstrated a diverse range of interactions with the environment by the birthing mother and her 4 supporters, the 3 midwives, and as I mentioned before, the duration of 15 hours provided a very, very rich data set. As I began to do the analysis, luckily we had a very big coffee table. This is just one slice. I had probably 12 columns of different annotations of notes and quotes that came directly from our video interviews we did afterwards, because shortly after birth, we sat down with different pairings based on what the families wanted and watched that video footage together. This is where the key is, because there's subconscious moments happening for the participants that they would not have been able to name or write down or answer or remember until they saw it in the video. So they were engaging in a reflexive process, as I was as well throughout. Here's some more examples of what that analysis documentation process was happening as I moved towards creating some findings, some new evidence, as the Toronto Star woman would like, the qualitative results. I did lean heavily on the AEIOU framework, which was originally developed by Wasson for more industrial design purposes, but found it was quite suitable for design behavior, physical design, and the vowels represent activities, environment, observation, interactions, objects. Users, yes. It's been a little while. We continue to lean on AEIOU because we find it useful as a way to do the analysis, not necessarily as conceptual modeling per se. The room is a bit dark here because it is during the night. This is the example of her holding on to the mat as a way to support herself. And the supporter is saying that her primary concern was to provide comfort and to minimize annoyances. Granted, she was safe in there, but sounds are important, and if things become annoying or disturbing, it's really good for her because I want her to feel calm and allow access to nature to take its course naturally without hindrance. Now, this quote really stands out to me over the years. The supporter says, when I looked at the IV pole, and she means while watching the video and being interviewed, it actually scared me. I think I'm going to walk back and reverse into it or knock it. I felt like I would always have things within my peripheral vision. I didn't feel safe. So, leading towards what the findings are for supporters, they have two parallel sets of needs to provide support for the woman. Seems pretty logical, but also to have assistance in managing the physical and emotional demands of their role. And as they're navigating their role, it can bring up many feelings of uncertainty. So again, even as design guidelines acknowledge supporters and the importance of them, the environment still falls short. There are recurring design barriers having to do with limited mobility, no real rest zones. This couch that you can see in the sketch is vinyl, and the arms are like this wide and just extremely uncomfortable to be on for very long. Supporters need spaces to support and recover simultaneously. So implicated within these two roles, which I called engaged and waiting, although neither term is exclusive, are both sets of supporters' needs to support the woman and to support their own well-being. Further, the themes are unbelonging paradox, role negotiation, and supporting the supporter. See, the supporter mom is directing her daughter. Her face probably could have been pixelated a little less, so we could see that there's a head there, but that's her other daughter. By this point in the labor, the dad has joined in as well, and he continues to be present during majority of the labor. I don't have photos in here this time, but he does end up being by her in the tub with his shirt off, and he has a lot of insight about how that experience could have been better for him. Now, interestingly enough, you can also see, well, it's maybe a little hard to see, but on the bed is her pillow that she brought from home. So please do that if you're planning to give birth. Advise your friends and family and clients to bring something from home that has their own scent on it and their own textures that they're familiar with. So again, the supporter mom says, it took a while to settle in and see where are we? Where do we fit in this place with everything around there? How do we move around and feel comfortable without being too cautious? Now, next is the design imperatives or implications. Being a design educator and design researcher, I think words are very important, and I steer away from the words such as design solution because that feels very do it this way or else you're wrong. which obviously is not the path of flow, and let's allow for many different ways of things happening here. Due to technical difficulties with my vision, I think I'll avoid reading them all to you anyway. That would be kind of a long list, but there are many things we've been hearing throughout this colloquium, and they're logical, intuitively, we know that makes sense. We would want that for ourselves in any sort of setting, and there's always room for improvements on these things as well, aren't there? Next up, I'll show you a more visual communication style. I have my students like, let's annotate this. Let's make sure we're showing what we know in a digestible, accessible way so people can see it and immediately get it. This picture might look familiar because it was in Marilyn's talk an hour or so ago as an example of the sanctuary space, and I'm just calling out some of the aspects of the space that would be beneficial for the childbirth supporter, and in so doing, it will also be supportive for the birthing person. So, for example, when the supporter is the only means to help hold a woman upright and support her, the supporter is physically going to become very exhausted. Why not have materiality in the space through furnishings or other facility devices that would allow the woman to receive that same level of support, and the supporter themselves could be doing some of that emotional and softer tending. And now I've really leaned into the colloquium because, Deb, I've taken your slide from yesterday. Here are supporters in Malawi, because this is everywhere around the world. We're human beings, we're all mammals. We do not want to be in captivity when we're giving birth. In fact, working on this slideshow last night, I thought I'll get some white noise behind me and put on a football game because I'm from the United States. I'll just see how the ducks are doing. Instead, I found a documentary of elephants, and as I turned it on, the elephant was in the wild and she was giving birth, and the baby was safe, and she had 5 elephants next to her. They were beautifully, happily trumpeting and gleeful and joyful and delightful. And the woman who's in the documentary shows, okay, this is what it looks like in a zoo. And I won't describe it to you because it's too heartbreaking. It's just not okay. So now back to the academic section. With the help of my amazing UTS team, I have the opportunity to publish for, putting things on the up and up as far as, look, it's been peer reviewed. It was not easy to get the ethics approval. I wasn't there when I thought, wow, I'm sauntering into this project and they've already got ethics approval. I've just got it made. And then they all looked at me and said, Davis, you can recreate our experience and document it for others to learn from, because who wants to study birth? You can't bother with the ethics. It's too hard to get it. Why bother? Well, there are ways to go about it anyway, and this paper would tell the story of that. Plus, we describe the methods of our entire project, and then the findings are primarily the childbirth supporter study, and then just recently published in 2023 is my analysis of bud set and allowing the supporters to be woven throughout bud set from the beginning as a regular part of the assessment. So far, over 100 other people have cited this, and I don't say that for self whatever. It's more about people are in the world working on this, and we are just one slice in this room. We're all very lucky we can be here, and remembering that so many are interested in this topic is, I think, really important. Now, the way I did the bud set and childbirth supporter study was a comparative case study approach. I really wanted to make something translational, meaning from evidence to practice, because this bridge for me is just still very problematic, although we have good examples of people who are doing it, and I applaud them. I love it. So this is exciting that we can really have a look at ways to walk forward in this work. And this brings me to the walking forward aspect of the Trauma-Informed Design Society, which, this is a bridge. I thought that was a beautiful image to bridge us, because it's all the same thing. It's all connected. So even if I feel like I have my foot on two different surfboards, there is so much coming to us, and understanding and ability to communicate what's going on physiologically with each of us, that the prevalence of traumas, and if you don't know ACE, Adverse Childhood Experience, this was the study put on in 1998 that started the conversation rolling of understanding this is not an other person. Estimates from the World Health Organization are 70 to 90% worldwide have, between one traumatic event, 31% at least have 4 or more, and this was in 2015, pre-pandemic. So clearly, self-reports might be limited in that aspect. And thank you for lending me this slide, Saraswati. I took a picture of it. So the Trauma-Informed Design Society approach is based on SAMHSA, which is United States Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. And we have developed a framework which I feel is very akin to the emotional design brief. And I feel like there's so much overlap, and let's just keep bringing this forward. It's going to land. People need lots of different voices and approaches. So the 11 domains of the framework that we developed are the safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment and voice, choice, equity, community, comfort, movement, and play. Now, the last two were not part of SAMHSA, but we understand that the researchers tell us the issue lives in our tissues, so if we move and play and help ourselves to release those hormonal implications of traumatic experiences, we might be in a better place. Now here's, I'm happy to have you all flip through and look. I know it's a textbook, so we're reimagining the paradigms because this is small for a textbook. My team here are policy analysts and alumni from the Design for Human Health program, and just doing incredible work that I'm so honored to be part of. And we're looking to help the conversation bridge between birth environments and the work we're doing here. We understand that this is for all settings, all people. It is not just people who have had a traumatic brain injury. We're talking about everyday spaces. One way we've approached that is developing the TidyVal K-12, which is a public school evaluation system, which we leaned heavily on how Budset was developed to help designers and educators be able to walk into a school and assess their setting. That's me with my daughter took the picture, which is why I'm just extra grinning ear to ear, but I was receiving an award at EDRA in Mexico City in 2023. It's the Certificate of Research Excellence Award. That EDRA is the Environmental Design Research Association that I'm a big fan of and been going to for a long time. It's how I got my job at the BAC. So my question to you all is, what do trauma-informed design birth spaces from the child birth supporter's viewpoint, and of course, everybody's, but then we become, it's okay to focus. Otherwise we begin to feel overwhelmed ourselves. So in my point of view, how would those spaces feel? And look, and further, how could we measure how trauma-informed design spaces are influencing the outcomes and the behaviors and the experiences of folks? So with a glimpse towards what else has been published, I've done some chapters in these books. The first one, Health and Wellbeing for Interior Architecture, I had the privilege of co-authoring with Marilyn, The Salutogenic Design for Birth. The other two books are not birth topics specifically, but may be of interest. So I thank you with my contact information and quotes from Maya Angelou, being a poet myself. I like to honor her words, and she says children's talent to endure stems from their ignorance of alternatives. I argue that's all humans, not just children. And from Amado Nervo, his poem En Paz, which is in peace, porque veo el final de mi rudo camino que yo fui el arquitecto de mi propio destino. How's that? Which in English is, because I see at the end of my rough journey that I've been the architect of my own destiny. Hold your applause because I have a very brief commercial break. This is, some of you noticed, my attire. I'm sorry to say the neighborhood birth center, and this shirt says disrupt the system, not the birth. The neighborhood birth center, this has a little video of their website. Their shop does not seem to have these t-shirts. They do have caps that say it. And they're planning to be in Roxbury. They have a capital campaign, and they have this beautiful TED Talk, and they're just doing fabulous work, and I really want to see them become a reality, because 99% of women in Massachusetts are birthing in hospitals, because there's one birth center in the entire state. So being a fan of up-and-coming and initiatives and helping to honor the voices of those who are on the ground doing the work, that's my commercial break, and here's an image of a hat. So disrupt the system, not the birth. Thank you very much.